When I awoke this morning, I have to be honest, I was fretting a bit. Today is our farewell picnic for our seniors celebrating their 4 years with us across the street. And as I went on my morning run, I reminded the good Lord that in my 6 years here, it has never rained for our picnic. And behold, he showed us mercy. The sun is shining, no rain. On this third Sunday of Easter, I don't normally do this, but I decided I would begin with an appropriate joke. A man who had partied too much the night before stumbles upon a baptismal service on a Sunday afternoon down by the river. He proceeds to walk into the water and stand next to the preacher. The minister notices the man and says, "Mister, are you ready to find Jesus?" The man looks back and says, "Yes, preacher, I sure am." The minister dunks the fellow under the water and pulls him right back up. "Have you found Jesus?" the preacher asks. "No, I didn't," said the man. The preacher then dunks him under for quite a bit longer this time, brings him up and says, "Now, brother, have you found Jesus?" "No, I have not, Reverend." The preacher, now in disgust, pulls the man under for at least 30 seconds this time, and brings him out of the water and says in a harsh tone, "My God, man, have you found Jesus yet?" The man wipes his eyes and says to the preacher, "Are you sure this is where he went in?" Finding Jesus. Did you notice how this year especially, it seems to me, that Christmas in the media and in retail has moved back? Now it's before Thanksgiving that they're putting out songs and Christmas stuff and decorations. So much so that when Christmas Day comes, all these weeks later, all of a sudden, it's over and done. At least the media and retail wants us to believe that. But you know, we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family, the Feast of Epiphany, and then the Christmas season ends with the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord. It's sort of the same happening now with Easter. Just after Valentine's Day, all of a sudden, out come the purple bunnies and the yellow chicks and all these eggs and everything in the baskets and everything else and all these bright colors. And then, on Easter Sunday, everybody goes to church and we all renew our baptismal commitments and we sprinkle you with holy water after you renew your baptismal commitment, and you go home and it's all over. Easter is done for another year. That's not true. You're probably scratching your heads and said, if that were true, why the heck is that priest sprinkling me with holy water on this third Sunday of Easter? Because Easter isn't over. We have, believe it or not, 4 more weeks to celebrate Easter. Why, you ask? Why do we have 7 weeks with which to celebrate the season of Easter? Because sometimes it takes all that time listening to the gospel messages on Sunday about the appearances of Jesus, trying to listen to understand the scriptures, that maybe it sinks in that Easter is not just a day. Easter is a way of life for all of us. Embracing the Paschal mystery, the dying and rising of Jesus. The disciples, the couple, on the way from Jerusalem to Emmaus, were trying to figure out that mystery. And you know, I'm scratching my head and I'm saying, what is wrong with these two? Why couldn't they see or understand when Jesus was explaining the scriptures to them? He was telling them all about the Messiah. It should have sounded a little bit familiar to them if they knew who he was. They had heard it before for 3 years. They didn't get it. They even said afterwards, were not our hearts burning when he was speaking? But they didn't make the connection that he was Jesus. Somehow they were blinded. Until what? Until they offered him some hospitality. He made believe that he was going on farther. and they were going in for the night. And they invited him in. They offered him hospitality. And it was there when he took the bread, and it wasn't this bread, because Cleopas and his companion were not at the Last Supper. It wasn't this bread, it was regular, ordinary bread that he broke for them, and all of a sudden, on their sharing and offering of hospitality, their eyes were opened, and there was Jesus, and they recognized him, and what happened? Poof, gone. Because he did his job. Now it was their job to go and tell the others. Hospitality is a wonderful thing. I don't know if you've ever heard this wonderful story. There was once a little boy who decided he wanted to find God. He knew it would probably be a long trip, so he decided to pack a lunch. 4 packs of Twinkies and 2 cans of root beer. He set out on his journey and went a few blocks until he came to a park. On one of the park benches sat an elderly woman looking at the pigeons. The little boy sat down beside her and watched the pigeons too. When he grew hungry, he pulled out some Twinkies. As he ate, he noticed the woman watching him. So he offered her one. She accepted it gratefully and smiled at him. He thought she had the most beautiful smile in the world. Wanting to see it again, he opened a can of root beer and offered her the other one. Once again, she smiled that beautiful smile. For a long time, the two of them sat on that park bench, eating Twinkies, drinking root beer, and smiling at each other, and watching the pigeons. Neither said a word. Finally, the little boy realized that it was getting late, and he needed to go home. He started to leave, took a few steps, then turned back and gave the woman a big hug. Her smile was brighter than ever before. When he arrived home, his mother noticed that he was happy, but strangely quiet. "What did you do today?" she asked. "Oh, I had lunch in the park with God." Before his mother could reply, he added, "You know, God has the most beautiful smile in the whole world." Meanwhile, the old woman left the park and returned to her home. Her son noticed something different about her. "What did you do today, Mom?" he asked. "Oh, I ate Twinkies and drank root beer in the park with God." And before her son could say anything at all, she added, "You know, God's a lot younger than I imagined." Hospitality. Hospitality, often described this way: the friendly reception and treatment of guests or strangers. Second, the quality or disposition of receiving and treating guests and strangers in a warm, friendly, generous way. Some synonyms for hospitality: warmth, cordiality, geniality, friendliness, accommodation, affability, comradeship, amiability, consideration, conviviality, entertainment, friendliness, generosity, good cheer, heartiness, warmth, neighborliness. That last one really got me. Neighborliness. Because I recall the great commandment that Jesus gave: love God above all else and love your neighbor as you love yourself. My sisters and brothers, hospitality. It's what it takes if we want to encounter the risen presence of God. Going out of ourselves in generosity to others. Whether it be someone we know, someone we live with, someone in a store, someone who we pass in a lunch place, someone we end up meeting for dinner unplanned. Hospitality, being able to offer kindness. St. Matthew tells us that where 2 or 3 are gathered, there he is in their midst. We recognize the risen Christ in our own midst whenever